Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Oh, that's my bad.
There we go. Hey, welcome back, everyone, for another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Ian,
cheers.
thanks for joining us. Awesome. So this week, we have Ian Schotanus on the show. Ian is the owner, well, I guess co-owner. He operates the Big Picture Consulting Company with his wife, Susan. They help businesses with safety and HR, which isn't always the most exciting, sexy topic. However, Ian already promised that he's going to be making HR sexy again today. So super excited to dive in with him. He does have a former Navy background. He does have an HVAC background with HR and safety experience, everything from payroll to workers' comp, employee management, anything like that. But he does work exclusively with plumbing, HVAC, and electrical businesses. So we thought it was super important to have him on the show here today. So if you ever had employees, currently have employees, worked with subcontractors, or just dealt with people in general, this is a conversation for you. Super excited to have you on the show here, Ian. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So why don't you go ahead and let us know a little bit more about your background, how you got into HVAC specifically, and why that was something that was really important for you to really zero in on and help out the trades.
Well, coming up, I was always electrically minded or technically minded. I was playing with the first home PCs, first networks. While I was in the Navy, I was helping run the wiring throughout the ship for the first linked computer networks on board. And, I was in advanced electronics, but I also got the pleasure of dealing with some of the largest HVAC units on our ship because only a handful of people had access to my work area. So it fell on me to do the maintenance. So I've always been technically minded, and the challenge that I had, and the reason why I ended up in HR is years down the road after I was out of the Navy, it turned out I was a pretty crummy employee. So I was on the wrong side of the HR table. I decided I didn't want to be there anymore, and an opportunity presented itself to, join up and start growing an HR program for a company that did work exclusively with the trades. And from there, I spent 10 years working with that company, and towards the end of 2019, I broke out on my own, and now I'm online and I'm known across the HVAC world as the HR guy, always lurking in the groups.
I see you
pop up there.
I see you pop up all the time, in the groups, as well in the comments and in your own profile as well. So it's definitely recognized. And I always love the HR guy. You've definitely branded yourself there. So also our friend Jason Julian says hello, Ian.
Hi, Jason.
Awesome. Well, I'm curious. Since this is Success Secrets Revealed, what does success look like to you, Ian?
Success equals being bulletproof from the government, not being able to get your life's work kicked over by the government on a whim, whether we're talking about OSHA, wage and hour, or any of the other 23 divisions of the Department of Labor. It really sucks that everything that you put into all your business practices, your marketing strategies, recruiting practices, everything can all be for naught in a hurry. All it takes is one disgruntled ex-employee. It takes one loss of the roll of dice that puts a random inspection on your doorstep, and you have to be ready for it. It sucks.
Totally.
I mean, 4 years ago when Trump rolled into office, I was saying, hey, I'm willing to be put out of a job if his first act is to burn the Department of Labor to the ground. But
to make things a lot easier.
For employers, absolutely.
Yeah.
Freedom for everybody to make their own decisions and negotiate their employment, with the employers. And, if you're treating employees badly, they're going to leave, and, it's cost of doing business. But the government doesn't allow that to happen. You have to follow the tens of thousands of rules. You're expected to know what they are. You're expected to know when they change, even when they don't bother telling you. And that's why I do what I do.
Love it.
I keep on top of that, and I call somebody else to deal with my HVAC system.
As somebody should, right? Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my clients is my HVAC guy. So there you go.
That's awesome. Well, in regards to that and protecting yourself from the government, so we've got some new regulations that are going to be rolling out here in the U.S. So curious what you've read through in that and what is it that you foresee coming. I know you've shared some posts and comments on it already, but I wonder if you could share it with our audience too.
So just a couple of hours ago, Congress passed the COVID relief bill, $1.9 trillion. Trillion with a T, and how much of that is actually going to go towards COVID relief, what's going to be given out in checks, what industries are going to be supported or subsidized further. There's a lot of big questions in that because it's a ridiculously large bill for something that's simply titled the COVID relief.
Yep.
So there's going to be a lot of information coming out about that. I don't believe that there's a whole lot specific to contractors, though there is information concerning the PPP loans. Not everybody has weathered this storm as well as others. So those loans and gifts, or tax deferred or whatever they're calling it now, those are still available. Another round is available, and that's going to be dissected out of this mess too.
So what's just out of curiosity, what's a PPP loan? Somebody might be thinking that
payroll protection. I can't even remember I've already had too much.
That's all good.
The payroll protection program or something like that, where it was designed to be a lifeline to small businesses who were forced to shut down or their business was completely wrecked by COVID lockdowns.
Gotcha.
And, contractors have been an essential service from the beginning. So a lot of them kept going, and there was an initial hit as customers didn't want to have anybody into their house. But then problems arose, and you still have to have your heating and AC working. So business started flowing. It started flowing even more because people were home more and wearing out their systems all that much faster. So business boomed for a lot of companies, but not for everybody.
Right.
So that program, if you're down 25% from last year, you can go and get another loan, and this is to help you fund your employees and what you need to keep your doors open.
So it sounds like HR is more than just what you can and can't say to people and getting in trouble for telling somebody to fuck off when you probably shouldn't have told them to fuck off.
Not my recommended course of action.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, when I tagged you in the first one, I'm like, can I tell somebody to fuck off? No, you probably shouldn't.
At least I'm consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but so I'm curious, HR, people hear that term and they think, oh, boring. So what is HR to you, and how, what does it all cover?
Well, HR is literally human resources. A lot of people, when they think of HR, they're thinking the paperwork and the I-9 and the W-4 and, what's the paperwork? What are the files that I have to keep? What are the regulations? But HR is really it covers or hits every aspect of every business, because you have humans involved with every aspect of your business. So how you structure your company culture and managing that, employee morale, your operations, merging it with what employees expect of you, what your goals are, and what the government expects of you. It's a 3-ring circus all in one concept. So a lot of times when people are asking about HR, they're actually asking about what's called HRIS, information systems, and that's employee file management. That's the flow of paperwork. So I can help advise on that in-house. I have recommendations for HRIS outsourcing. What I do is I help with the decision making as a true HR business partner. And that is, it is critically important to have an impartial third party to bounce your ideas off of and to take the emotion out of any responses before you tell somebody to fuck off. That just doesn't help any conversation.
No, generally doesn't.
So it's better to call and vent to me, even if you don't like the answers that I'm giving you, which happens, unfortunately, pretty regularly. You know that it's coming from a place designed to help, not be a pain in your backside. I want you to achieve your goals.
So you're almost like a dedicated in-house HR person on speed dial for contractors who might not necessarily have the large team to have that in-house. Is that kind of how I'm understanding that?
Absolutely. And really how I've structured myself and structured my company is I'm a co-opt HR resource at whatever level you want to use me. So my clients range, across the country, from small, completely small employers looking to hire their first employee and getting their foundation set up so they can grow, all the way through several hundred employees where I act as an added resource and emergency relief valve for their in-house HR team. So I'm priced to be functional for everybody. Everybody just pays a little bit of my salary, my wife's salary, and at a fraction of the cost of what it would take to even bring us in part-time if we were able to do part-time.
Totally.
Great question here. I can't put up this. It says Facebook user. Well, I guess I could. What if I say "fuck off, please" with a smile? Does that work? Can we say that?
It depends. Did he tell you to fuck off first? No.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work. always be professional.
Yeah,
Swear
take the high road.
later.
Take the high road. Well, I mean, and talking like, taking the high road, and what a person can do. I know you mentioned company culture and morale, and I would like to think that a company culture and a morale would go a long way. Let's be real, that people are at some point, if you're on a job site, things aren't going well and somebody's trying to hammer you, probably might slip and tell them to fuck off. Let's be real here. And so as much as we joke about that comment, it does happen. But if you have a great company culture and a good morale, you could likely mitigate any potential hindrances by saying that to somebody, right? So what are some things, and again, we're not saying that, hey, put in a great company culture and then say fuck off to people all the time. I'm not saying that. But because some people might think that, right? So what are some things that a person can do to create a better culture and to increase employee morale so situations such as telling somebody to fuck off don't blow up in the whole company's face?
So there's a lot of nuance into that one. And what's going on with company culture, especially today, and the way society tends to react to perceived offenses, is making things really difficult for employers. And what most people want and what's going to motivate them is not actually money, but feeling respected, being appreciated for their accomplishments, and just knowing that you've got their back. It's a matter of trust. So if your team trusts you, and if they trust each other, if you have that occasional, spurt of anger that, leads to an unwise knee-jerk comment, then if that trust is there, they trust that you did not intend to personally attack them. But if the trust isn't there, they're going to interpret that. And because the employer innately has the power, they're going to be the bad guy, no matter what caused that outburst.
So what are some ways that you can increase the level of trust among everybody?
Okay. Ready for this top secret HR trick?
Yeah.
Talk to your people.
Whoa. Whoa.
Mind blowing, right?
Learn about your team, not as a broad stroke. We're going to do paintball every weekend. If half your team prefers playing poker, they don't do outside. I don't do outside. I mean, look at me, I'm translucent. I told you I wasn't going to be dry, guys.
I think that's like the line of all shows for like the lot.
But if you as the owner like being outdoors, but most of your team doesn't, you're not going to improve morale by sponsoring paintball tournaments. It's going to turn people off, and they're going to think you just want to shoot them. That doesn't help your company culture. It doesn't help employee morale. And I've seen that happen. And it actually took me doing stay interviews when I was doing an on-site visit, that finding out what they liked about working for that company, and then also if you could change one thing, what would it be? And that came out, and it's such a simple thing to change. Okay, let's look at options instead. Let's talk about hey, I want to reward you guys. Here's what I've got in mind. What have you got? And rotate through. Help everybody experience new things. That way you're showing the appreciation. You're showing the respect by asking their opinion instead of just saying, hey, good job, here you go, whether they like it or not. Oh, and the third piece was actually having a purpose. Make the feeling of having a purpose and accomplishing something during your workday. If you get there's nothing worse than getting bogged down on a technical job that, it just drains your mind, drains your soul. And, that's it'll just bring you down and be very rough. But if you go out there and that you're being encouraged, and no matter if a job goes south, your boss has your back, and you're going to get the support that you need instead of a boot to the neck, you're going to have a much better culture.
Love that.
Yeah.
No, there's so much goodness in that. And I believe everyone should be writing this question down. If you could change one thing, what would it be? And asking that to your team, you can ask it to them around problems, right? To create more problem solving solutions within your organization. You can use that with your CSRs, right? How they can handle more problems on the phone so they don't have to come back to you. Obviously with your techs, getting them to problem solve on their own. You want to create critical thinkers. You don't want to create yes men and yes women within your organization. You want to be able to get people to think for themselves. And I love that aspect.
And to do that, the first time you may need to have somebody like myself or some outsider come in to do that and ask those questions. Right. When I was conducting those interviews for that client, I didn't take down any names. And I'm horrible with names personally, so I couldn't tell you who said what by the end of the conversation. So I just listed it out, reviewed it with management, and the very next team meeting at the end of the week, some of those highs and lows were brought out and discussed openly, and that set up the pattern of trust in one shot.
Totally.
Because it all comes down to trust.
100%. Well, and sometimes you're going to be surprised. Like, don't get me wrong. Like it's hvac. So you get some guys in here that are not the brightest of the bunch. And you'd be surprised sometimes with some of the ideas that they come back with just because they look at things a little bit differently or they think a little bit differently. I love reverse engineering everything, especially when it comes to marketing. Right? Like, let's look at what is it that they were attracted to as to why they took this job in the first place, right? That is marketing. They're marketing their business. when you're looking at why is a client coming to us? Well, what is it that you do for your own buying habits? What is it that your team does for their own buying habits? Hey guys, we were thinking of doing this billboard, this Facebook ad. What do you think of it? Would you click on this? Is this something that you would call? Ask your team, get them involved in those things.
Well,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't, and it's no matter the team, for like, did you know that the Flamin' Hot Cheetos brand itself, like that came from an idea from a janitor that of wanting to appeal to the Latino market. And it was just in a conversation, right, that they had, and he went and he pitched it, right? He wasn't, a VP of product. He wasn't a head of global markets. He was a janitor, but he had a great idea. And the team actually listened to him. And they're like, oh, shit, we can take that and run with that. Now you look in the grocery store and Flamin' Hot Cheetos are always there. So
And
great
like 3
ideas.
versions of it.
Yeah, like the jalapeno Cheetos are like one of my favorite types of Cheetos out there. So I'm sorry, ever since Trailer Park Boys, I can't say jalapeno. It's always got to be It's always got to be a jalapeno.
Get jalapenos on your quesadilla.
Yes.
Butchering the language.
100%. So.
Well, let's change gears here a little bit, Ian, because one of the things you said on your profile on your website here is that you were an avid reader and that you love to grow. So curious, what is your favorite book and why?
Game of Thrones. And it's not so much the business, obviously, because there is really no business in that book, but it just shines a horrifying light on the potential nature of people. Right. And it makes any issue or any challenge that anybody throws my way, it really puts it in perspective. It could always be worse. Yep. So I deal with reality so much that I'm a science fiction and fantasy geek. As far as business development, Your Own Ship, great leadership book, and knowing how to take responsibility and just roll with what you do and own it. Be right, wrong, or indifferent. Be decisive in what you do. Right. And if you're wrong, own up to it, make adjustments, and then be decisive again. And that's really how I approach everything. I mean, I am the trusted resource for compliance matters and employee management matters, because my opinions, and I freely state they're my opinions, my analysis based on information provided, I do it with extreme confidence. If you're going to do something, you have to believe in it, or else nobody else is going to believe in it. And if you're wrong, they have to trust that you'll recognize that, I was wrong on this, and I'm going to fix it, and we're going to move on together.
Yep. No, you got to have certainty. If you don't have certainty, no one's going to believe in you.
Absolutely.
Whether that's a customer, an employee, doesn't matter.
Yep. I heard the Game of Thrones book, though, was a little tough to follow because of all the characters. Like, I watched the TV shows.
Which is tough enough.
Yeah, tough enough, right? Like, you'd be like, oh, fuck, what? Who? And, like, I heard the books are even more difficult to follow along.
It can be. You do have to let yourself flow into the story and you just ride that wave. And I'm a multitasker. I mean, I'm certified in HR and safety, and I'm picking up the phone at all hours of the day, midstream, mid-project, and I'm known for providing lightning quick, decisive answers to whatever issues. So I never had any issue with it. But if you got to take it slow, if you got to go back and reread or re-reference, do so. Yep. But and that goes for anything. If you're not 100% sure of where you're at in your own story, revisit a previous chapter. There's nothing wrong with it. Take a step back so you can go forward more smoothly.
100%.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I know you mentioned safety in there, and I do want to come back to safety, but I do want to ask, one last question, and maybe Evan has some more on just kind of the HR side of things. And we talked a little bit about, before we got on about, firing somebody. That obviously is a real reality in business when you have employees, is that you do have to let people go. So if it comes down to it and somebody has to terminate an employee, what are some best tips and best practices that they can get into in order to make it, I guess, the best possible outcome? I mean, nobody really likes firing people. I think that kind of sucks.
And people don't like to get fired.
No.
Weird.
So yeah, I know. Funny, imagine that, right? So I guess what are some tips when it comes to having to terminate employment? That's a better word. Maybe that's a little bit more grammatically correct. So,
You're being too polite.
One, be honest. Be honest with why you've come to this decision. Don't be around the bush. Don't use euphemisms. Don't straight out lie about why you're doing it. If you're saying, well, we're restructuring, we don't need your services anymore, but you're already posting a job for their replacement, that's going to come back to bite you. Don't even leave emotion at the door. Leave it at home. You have to be just straightforward. Do not allow yourself to get baited, because they're going to be emotional if they didn't see it coming. If they see it coming, you got a whole different stack of challenges that you may have to face. So,
Well, and that was a lesson from Moneyball, right? Movie with Brad Pitt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you're making a trade in the majors, right? The Oakland Athletics, there's a story. Brad Pitt's the GM, a team of nobodies that they put together. They make a trade, and he's telling his assistant GM to go let him know, well, you got to be decisive and treat him like a professional. Hey, you've been traded. Here's the situation. Here are your plane tickets. Thanks so much. We really appreciate you, but you got to go. Yep. That's it. Be straightforward. You don't have to get empathetic. You don't have to get sympathetic. Straightforward, to the point. If they can't handle it, well, you just got to tell the truth, because then at least you can stay authentic to you.
Absolutely. And, whatever you do, hold firm. Yep. The decision has been made. Hopefully you've spoken to me before you've made that, so that if there are any pit traps, if there's anything in that employee's past that could lead to a wrongful termination, a discrimination claim, something that could muddy the waters. When I'm talking to people, I never ask about race, gender, religion, politics, all those no topics. I don't even ask about it. So
you took a diversity class on that, did you not?
Oh yeah, I did. And it taught me not to ask about it. But everything should be washed clean, because none of that matters. I mean, I was in the Navy at 17 years old. I grew up in Connecticut. It wasn't a very diverse, neighborhood that I lived in, but it never mattered to me. I dropped into the Navy, and I had people from all over the place, everywhere on the, sociological, scale. And it never dawned on me to care. I didn't actually learn about any of the problems until I was well into the Navy. After I got out of boot camp and I was allowed to watch TV again. But it just isn't a thing. It really doesn't matter to me, but it could matter to that employee, and it could matter to the employer. So you have to, make sure that your bases are covered, and what you are firing them for cannot be mistakenly tied to something else. Now, one of the biggest things that people bring to me, or they comment in response, especially on Facebook, where everybody has a law degree, is that
everybody on Facebook either has a law degree, they're a psychologist,
it's medical experts.
Yeah. Show commentator, ruthless. Like, some of the people on social media are absolutely ruthless. If you have nothing better to do than sit around and just make fun of people, like, you must have such a low self-esteem about yourself that you have to turn around and make fun of people online.
Somebody, trolls on Facebook are just hilarious. One of the recent ads on on my page, feature Oprah Winfrey doing her whole, you get this free, you get this free, you get this free. And, it's an iconic, funny thing that all of a sudden the comments just started coming in of, well, maybe you'd be more successful or you'd draw more customers if you didn't feature a bully. It's funny. Unclench.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And it's not even my ad. It's a marketing company that did it. I told them to go on the edge.
Yeah.
But that's just what it does. But back to the point, what these Facebook lawyers, like to say is at will. You don't have to give them a reason. Well, true. Unless they're going to make up their own reason.
Right.
And if their made up reason sounds credible and puts you in a bad light, you're the one that's going to be seen as the bad guy. You have all the power as the employer. The perception becomes reality, even if it's completely made up on the spot. So talk to me. Let me ask the questions. Make sure there's no pit traps so that you minimize the risk at least. Because anybody can always go to a lawyer, no matter how by the book you go. So.
All right. Random question generator, because we're going to bring this back. We have choose. You got to choose. We have two, but we're going to make you choose option A or option B. So you have to choose.
A.
A. All right. What lifestyle change have you been meaning to make for a while now, but you've procrastinated on?
Stop having kids.
Stop having kids.
Amen. I hear that.
Yeah, well, I guess with 5 kids, Evan with 3, me with 0. So maybe I'll take your advice now and just run for the hills, duck and run and cover. So
I was
cool.
good at 3. My wife wanted a daughter. We kept on going, and
here you are. So.
And then oops.
Okay, that happens. The last child, they always say, is an oops anyways. That's what my sisters tried to tell me my whole life, is that I was the oops and she was the planned. But I usually say, no, the first one is the oops, and then they plan the second one. So you're the oops. So so a little bit about safety. I want to chat a little bit about that. But before we get into that, a bit about marketing, because obviously HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, we are on the marketing side of things. When you look at marketing through the lens of HR, is there anything that you look at for do's and don'ts in terms of the marketing side of things?
When you're marketing to employees, it's, because you have your unique selling proposition for the customer and for your clients and that sort of thing. And the image that you portray and what demographics you're speaking to or what type of customer you're looking for, that's one thing. When you're marketing for employees and you're in your recruitment mode, that's your employee value proposition. Why should somebody want to come work for you? And this is where you have to be able to identify and put your company culture on display. And you said it earlier, you market for employees just like you market for customers. And, it's critically important to be so self-aware and not make it the carbon copy. Come work for us. We have great benefits, a truck and phone. Yay. So does everybody else.
Yep.
Why should I risk coming to you as a new person versus staying in the place that I'm not real happy in, but I know the lay of the land? So, be honest, don't set false expectations, and as with any other marketing, appeal to your audience.
So looks like you've taken a pretty interesting approach for your own personal marketing. Why don't you walk us through what you do for your own marketing in utilizing the social media platforms themselves? And not only that, how can an HVAC contractor also do sort of some of the same things?
So as far as how well HVAC companies can mirror what I do, Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because my customers or my target audience are online trying to become better business people.
Mm.
You know, anybody who's not trying to improve their business operations, trying to grow, they're not going to be interested in hearing what I have to say unless they're in the middle of a lawsuit, and by then it's too late for me to do much to help anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did with this new company, I'm only solidly on Facebook. That's really the only thing that I've been doing for the last year and a half now, is joining different HVAC groups and trade groups, being invited to different things. I'm tied in with Service Titan in one of their groups, and I provide information as the HR guy and the safety guy. So that's where I'm any response that I do, I'm just out there. The HR guy equals this, the safety guy equals this, and I make it real. I talk to these people, and I'm giving out free advice. And this may actually hinder, but because if I'm giving it for free, why would they sign up for my services? But I always it honestly, all I can do is scratch the surface on Facebook. I have to know more about the company. I have to know more about any individual situation details. So I put out what I can and say, if you want to talk about this, great. I've been doing free samples since the beginning of COVID. I've talked to anybody who's had questions about dealing with COVID and the regulations and FFCRA and paid sick leave and Family Medical Leave Act and all that stuff. So, I'm generous with my time and my information, but if you want to make your company succeed, you have to have HR dialed in your company. If you have people already that can do it, great. If they can take the scratching the surface that I provide and roll with it internally, great. If you need more help, I'm available.
100%. So we are going to show how to get in touch with Ian right now, just because we do have that. And then we have a question that I want to queue up from our Facebook group. So if you want to get in touch with Ian and ask him some questions, thebigpictureconsulting.com. Those that are listening later, we'll have these in our show notes as well. So thebigpicture.com. Sorry, thebigpictureconsulting.com.
I know, I'm working on it.
Yeah, on Facebook, facebook.com/TBP Consulting. Nailed it this time. I'm not going to say that one again because that was a tongue twister for me. And then personally, facebook.com/Ian.Schotanus, but that is spelt SCHOTANUS.1. Again, we'll put that in the show notes. For that, Evan, you had a comment for the question.
Yeah. So basically, Ian, I want to make sure we understand correctly. So one, you knew exactly who your ideal client was, where they hung out, how to get in front of them, and what were their pain points so that you could properly add value to them in a way that was free, but also enticing so that they would pick up the phone and call you. Is that pretty accurate?
That's pretty accurate. I mean, funny enough, I knew exactly where to strike. Yep. So, that's where, I've been doing this for 12 years now, working exclusively with the trades, 10 years with another company as I, cut my teeth on California regulations and then grew very quickly coast to coast. And so knowing a lot of big players in the industry, from there, I was able to quickly identify the opportunities on social marketing and Facebook, which we never touched at my other company.
Right.
So it was wide open field.
Yeah,
well, that's the big lesson and the big takeaway from what Ian just shared there, as far as what he does, because anyone can do that in any business. Know your ideal client and be really, really specific as to who it is that you want to work with. You can work with others, but know your ideal one. Where do they hang out? What are their pain points? What frustrates them? What are they looking for, and how can you help them? And what value can you give them for free so that they're going to appreciate what you do, so much so they're going to call you when the frustration gets too big. That's
Yep.
it. That's all marketing is.
Really, you've dialed that in, and that can be great lessons for anybody. So if you heard that, even the first time you heard Evan say that, you're like, rewind this shit, re-listen to it, write it down, rewind it, listen to it again, and then reach out and talk to us about actually doing it for you. And then when we blow up your team, because you have to hire more people because you have so much business coming in, you call Ian and say, shit, we need to get some HR in line, and away we go. So that's basically what Evan said in my mind, but no. Cool. Question from a Facebook group, Facebook user. It's actually, we know it's Jonathan because he's in the group. Actually, I flipped over to the group, and so that's why I know it is. But anyways, can a 1099 employee ask for unemployment when let go?
1099 isn't actually an employee. So they can ask. It's not going to happen because they're not an employee. They're a subcontractor.
Yep.
Now, with that though, can they come back and say, well, you treated me like an employee though, not like a 1099. So, and then you get into some muddy water there. So how can owners better understand what a 1099 is versus an actual employee, was it W4, W9?
W2 employee.
W2. There we go.
I think it's a little bit different here in Canada. So,
right, and
yes.
That I'm aware subcontracting works a little bit differently up north.
Yeah. Everything is different up here, eh?
Sure.
Hey.
You do have to be very careful on what you're using subcontractors for, what you're using that 1099 for. If you are controlling what they do, if you're saying be here at this time to do this job in this way, and they've got logoed materials and you're providing material support, or even if they are just doing the primary purpose of your company, you would be vulnerable to a classification lawsuit. And that causes, you do not want to be stuck in one of those. Because then you're dealing with potential insurance fraud citations, and they're not gentle. they are not friends to anybody. They know everybody
in the Navy all over again.
Treat everybody like they do. But yeah, you have to make sure your employees are properly classified. If they don't qualify as a subcontractor, you need to make them an employee. If you make them an employee, you need to make sure that you're covering whatever health, benefit requirements there may or may not be, overtime requirements, no matter how you're paying them. So there's the classification between 1099 and W-2 employee, and then there's the classification of exempt and non-exempt where it comes to overtime. And that's not a topic that I can really make sexy and entertaining, but there's a huge amount of information on it that I've posted on all the different groups that I'm out there, and you can always contact me, and I offer free payroll reviews to let you know. I can let you know in about 5 minutes how vulnerable you may be to overtime lawsuit.
Sweet.
Yeah. In Canada, I mean, you got to be so people that are independent contractors, the big risk in it, for us in the city that I'm in, it's oil and gas and the technology world. I hire one person, from the actual subcontractor being the subcontractor. You have to be careful that you don't have just one company employing you, because they might look at that and say, oh, you're not actually a subcontractor, you're technically an employee. There goes everything that you had, kind of the back end of things. Now you're in a world of hurt with the government, which nobody really wants, right? Steer clear. If you can keep them out of your business, the better.
Yep. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Todd. You want to jump into some safety stuff?
Oh yeah. So just as we, we start to wrap things up, and sorry, I thought on the notes that I was gonna I was going to get you to transition into safety, but so just as we start to wrap things up, and by no means are we done right now, but wanted to transition into some of the safety, components of things. The big question for me at least is, how does an HVAC business owner protect themselves and their employees from a safety side of things? What are some things that a person can do there?
First and foremost, recognize that no matter if you do residential construction or new construction or commercial work, you are seen by OSHA as construction. And you're going to be held accountable to the construction standards, which 90% of has no bearing on your actual operations. So when you're writing, or having somebody write your safety programs and providing the required safety trainings all year, that sort of thing, you have to recognize that even if it doesn't seem applicable, it's still required. So even if you're never in a space that you actually need to have respiratory, fit testing or hearing conservation, just the fact that you're in a construction field, you have to have policies on that, and you have to hold training at least once a year covering that. So, and if you don't, each one of those can be up to $13,000.
Wow.
And if they've hit you before, add a 0.
What would you say of the percentage of guys that you chat with don't have that in place, that don't do that? Like, if you're to say that, I'm curious.
95%
don't have that in place.
At least not sufficiently enough.
Yep. So if you're listening and you hear that, and you're like, well, if something happens, you could be fucked with big fines. So put safety. I know people like blow it up, and like, by the way, I love your photo that you had of the arborist. He had a ladder fully extended in the bucket of a bobcat, and then he had the other part of the ladder resting on part of the tree that he cut down, and he's on the very top cutting more of the tree down. And I'm like, what could be the problem here? But a big problem, right? I mean, the safety is a big thing, and if you're not protected, then there's potential liability there for sure.
And that goes back to that picture right there. Goes back to the psychological differences of technicians versus your average person on the street.
Yep.
Technicians are innately problem solvers. That's why they become technicians. Because they see a problem, they want to fix it. They don't necessarily care what the actual safety ramifications are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think, hey, if I fall from this, I'm probably going to die. No, they're looking ahead to solving the problem, and that's what's giving them purpose. If they fall, then the lawsuit, when they blame the employer for their screw up, that becomes their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to do what they're going to do. Free will is still a thing, and no matter how much you howl at your employees, how much training you give them, they could just go out there and decide, I'm going to do it this way because I know better than everybody. I've done it this way 1,000 times, never had a problem. Let's just remove that machine guard. Let's go ahead and set up the ladder like this. I can jump that last 3 feet. Whatever the case is. Yep. So as an employer, you have to have the policies in place. You have to have the training and documented training. Employees sign off acknowledging that they received that information and know they're going to be held accountable to it. You have to provide the safety supplies. All the PPE, fall protection, goggles, glasses, gloves, helmets, whatever is required for anything that they could be doing on a day-to-day. And then the final part that is almost universally missed out there, accountability. You have to have a system in place to be able to catch that Yahoo who set up the twin ladders in the bucket of a bobcat. Because if you don't, you're never going to know until the accident. And if you don't have that accountability in place and you don't show that you actually care about safety, you're the one in the fault. If you can't legitimately point to that employee and go, he chose to break every rule that we hold sacred here, we will hold him accountable. If you can do that, OSHA can't touch you because you have done everything possible to keep your employees safe.
Yep.
But any weakness in that, and you're in the wrong, and you're the one that's going to be paying those bills.
Fun fact, I actually stood in the bucket of a John Deere front loader and did the tin roof on an acreage once in the farm. So because it was such a steep pitch that it was probably the most safest decision was to have the bucket there, because I mean, if I fell, it was 20 feet. But at least if I fell, I would fall into the bucket, which was like 1 foot. So we had that there. So
and you know what? There are even regulations that allow for that sort of on-site adjustment if you're qualified to make that judgment call.
yeah,
So I can even help companies deal with that sort of thing legitimately.
nice. That's always good to have. Ours was just on our own family farm, so so that kind of the farms are almost sometimes to be exempt. But moving on,
protection isn't always feasible, and they've got rules to account for that. Believe it or not.
100%.
Is that how you ended up with 5 kids? Was protection wasn't feasible, or?
Oh,
I'm not going there.
Go there.
My wife would kill me if I continued that line of thought.
When it comes to safety meetings, a question on safety: if Hugh holds a safety meeting once a month, but they do them themselves, will that work? Does it have to be a dedicated safety person? Can the owner hold it? How do the safety meetings work from a legal standpoint?
So there is because of the industry and any specific hazards that employees face on the job, there is a list that I've identified. I think at last count, it's like 22, 23 specific topics that everybody in the HVAC industry should be doing at least once a year to meet OSHA requirements. Then who does them can be delegated. It could be rotated among technicians. It could be the owner. It could be a designated safety manager, whoever. As long as the information is provided and it's quality information, toolbox talks are actually not generally sufficient to meet the requirement. You have to go at least a step above and provide substantial information on any given topic, and better yet, with demonstrations. And, that's something that all my retainer clients get every month is a couple of safety training topics and that accountability form that I mentioned earlier. So doing it once a month, that is the least that an OSHA investigator would want to see. Technically, though, you could do a massive safety training day once a year and cover all of the topics. And you'd have to cover all of the topics when you bring on a new hire. And, if there's a job change that requires different safety, you would have to make sure you have those things in place. But OSHA does want to see at least a monthly. Some states like California require a bi-weekly safety training. And actually, California, it's even worse. And this is where Canadians tend to look at California going, what are you thinking? This is too much. And if you get Canada saying, this is too much, you're off the rails. Way off.
100%.
I'm half Canadian, so I'm allowed to.
Perfect. Even if you weren't, would still take it.
Well, yeah, because you're really nice.
Yes.
And then we'd apologize for it.
Yeah. Sorry for being too nice, eh?
In California, it's actually technically every 80 working hours. So if your guys are working overtime, you may have to do it more than once every other week. But I've never seen anybody actually get in trouble for holding a regular bi-weekly safety meeting. So that's my go-to advice on that. But you have to have quality information. You have to have that accountability, and you have to cover the specific topics. Who is giving that information doesn't really matter, as long as it's quality information.
Perfect. And I'm sure that somebody could easily, how would somebody easily find those topics Is it something that you could just is it easily accessible?
Not really, because that would be just way too easy that would be making it way too easy for people to defend themselves from OSHA. Okay, we're going to focus on these topics. Through my process, I've identified a bunch. Anybody who shoots me an email, if all they want is that list of safety training topics, I'll freely provide it.
Sure. What's your email address? Let's throw her up.
Ian at thebigpictureconsulting.com.
Sounds like a great blog post or a free download that someone could subscribe to from your website.
Yeah, I did put it out there, through the Facebook groups, and had a number of people request it. And funny enough, I picked up one client off of it.
Nice.
Perfect. Nice. That's it. I mean, heck, I'm even going to email you for that list. I think that's a good resource.
Absolutely.
On our end of things to have. So, well, as we start to come up on the hour here, I mean, I'm sure that we could continue talking.
Man, time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, exactly right. I mean, I've already done 2 beers already, so I'm kind of breaking and bucking the Whiskey Wednesday trend because I felt like beers today instead of whiskey. So that happens. But we do obviously want to thank you for being on the show. But we have one last question here for you. One last question, and that's, what is one question you wished people asked you more, but don't?
Why do you charge so little?
Okay, so then I'm going to ask you the question, why do you charge so little?
Well, I charge so little because my primary purpose in doing the work that I do is to help people. And I'm working with I'm talking to a lot of different consultants, and they're doing business coaching, and they go on site for a week for $25,000-$30,000 for a week of training with the team. My equivalent service, working directly with management and the ownership, it comes out to like 10 grand. I just quoted that out for a visit in September to a client. But it's not, just like I mentioned earlier, about people want to have a purpose to the work that they do. And I want to help small businesses become big businesses. I want big businesses to be as safe, as bulletproof as possible so that they can focus on doing their business. And to fill those roles, it just makes sense. I do put the pressure on my clients. If they need something, they can contact me and I respond instantly. I provide proactively whatever it is that, whatever I can and whatever I think has broad appeal and scope and importance to my clients. But, talk to me, ask me questions. That's what I do. I love answering questions. I love solving problems. I'm a technician at heart. I just apparently have a knack for translating the legalese that drives everybody else batty.
No, that's great. I love that. So I'm actually going to steal this last question from Evan. So just on the you want to provide value to business owners, right? And that's why, the big thing of why it is that you do. So is there anything that you're in need of that our audience can help you out with?
I mean, really, it's, anything that they face, unique situations. You bring me a puzzler or something like that, it's a good way to score free advice and increase my knowledge base. So, Stump the Wizard is a good game that I like to play.
There you go. So send him Stump the Wizard and let us to play that game. Well, thank you, Ian, so much for taking the time out of your day to sit and chat with a couple crazy Canucks. And you're half Canadian too, so that makes 2.5 Canucks
2.5
on this show out of this 3. So again, thank you so much for your time. Great information. Love to have you on to in a future episode to obviously chat some more. And if anybody has any questions for Ian, obviously the notes will be in the show. And again, thanks for taking the time. Until next time.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
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 Hey, thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. That URL one more time, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one nugget, one little golden nugget of information from this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, what we ask is you introduce this show to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all we ask. Introduce it to one person in your contacts list so they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.